On a January 1948 afternoon, as winter's biting cold draped Kentucky, the clear blue sky became a stage for a mystery that gripped the world's attention. From the control tower at Godman Airfield, nestled within Fort Knox, soldiers guarding the skies received a report that froze their hearts. An enormous, metallic, glinting object hovered over Mansville, just miles away. State police described it as 250 to 300 feet wide, far larger than any aircraft humanity had built. In the fading twilight, it wasn't just a phenomenon, but a haunting question. What was it, and why was it here? The post-war era still weighed heavily on American minds, with whispers of flying saucers and extraterrestrial forces spreading from small-town diners to major newspapers. This object's appearance didn't just spark curiosity, it awakened a primal fear of the unknown. In Godman's cramped control room, tension hung like a taut wire. Soldiers' eyes locked on the horizon, where the enigma floated, defying every rule they'd been taught. They knew someone bold enough to face it was needed to dispel the shadow of doubt. That someone was Captain Jake Thompson. Jake, with sun-bleached blonde hair and eyes sharp as knives, was a living legend of World War II. At 32, he'd survived ferocious dogfights over Europe, where death lurked seconds away. More than a skilled pilot, he was a symbol of courage and insatiable curiosity. He was the man comrades trusted, the one superiors tasked with the impossible. When word of the strange object reached him, Jake didn't hesitate. Whatever it was, he had to find answers. As the day's last sunlight glinted off his P-51 Mustang's wings, a sense of destiny enveloped him. The object, shimmering with metallic light, wasn't just a target. It was a cosmic summons, a mystery he couldn't ignore. Preparing for takeoff, his heart pounded, not from fear, but from a yearning to touch what others dared not dream. That Kentucky sky wasn't just a battlefield. It was where Jake Thompson's fate would be forever altered. Under Kentucky's deep blue sky on January 7th, 1948, a mystery from realms unknown slipped into the routine lives of soldiers at Godman Airfield, Fort Knox. In the cramped control tower, cluttered with aging radar screens and control panels, Sergeant Mike Blackwell was immersed in the familiar rhythm of his duties. Tall, with a voice deep as a well's echo, Mike was a man of precision, trusted by comrades to keep the skies safe. But that afternoon, when a shrill phone call pierced the calm, his world tilted. On the line was an Elizabethtown police officer, voice trembling as if he'd seen the unimaginable, a massive, round, metallic object hovering over Mansville, not far away. Mike, with a veteran's instincts, contacted Regional Air Traffic Control. The reply sank his heart. No aircraft, military or civilian, were logged in the area. Whatever this was, it bore no human mark. An intruder from the void, its presence turning the tower's air stifling. Before he could process, more reports flooded in from nearby towns, Irvington, Owensboro, like pieces of a wordless puzzle. All described a radiant object, motionless, as if silently observing the earth below. Mike looked up, eyes scanning through the tower's dusty window, and there, southwards, he saw it. A tiny white speck suspended mid-air, like a stray star in daylight. Raising binoculars, what he saw froze his blood. It vaguely resembled a parachute, but a pulsing red glow encircled it, flickering like a living thing's heartbeat, sending chills through him. In 10 years at Godman, Mike had never seen anything so strange. Not a plane, not a balloon, certainly not a star. Unease gripped his chest as he called Colonel John Hicks, the base commander, a man with salt and pepper hair and eagle-sharp eyes. Minutes later, Hicks strode in, trailed by Major Paul Carter, the operations officer known for cool-headedness in crises. Both, with decades of service, froze when their eyes met the object through the window. It didn't move, made no sound, but its presence carried an unseen weight, like a warning whispered from distant realms. Through binoculars, Hicks and Carter saw it wasn't just large. It was colossal, dwarfing any U.S. Air Force craft. Its metallic surface glinted, streaked with odd red hues, stirring unease in the seasoned soldiers. In the tower's small room, time seemed to halt. Mike, Hicks, and Carter knew they faced something beyond comprehension. Not a routine issue, not a stray plane or wayward balloon, but a mystery, a challenge. They had to act. But who could confront this? Who dared fly into the fog of uncertainty to seek truth? The decision came silently, heavy as a vow. They needed a pilot not just skilled, but fearless enough to face the unknown. The name spoken, almost instantly, was Captain Jake Thompson, a hero of Europe's aerial battles. Unflinching before enemy fire, Jake was the only choice. Not just a pilot, but a symbol of courage and a hunger to breach human limits. As Mike relayed the message over the radio, his voice low but steady, it felt like a plea to the heavens. Somewhere aloft, Jake, leading a P-51 Mustang flight, caught the signal. He was en route from Marietta, Georgia, to Standiford Field, Kentucky, with 3 other pilots under his command. When Mike asked if he had fuel to investigate, Jake's reply came without hesitation, his voice a pledge. He'd go. He'd face the enigma, whatever it was. In that moment, as the day's last light gleamed on the P-51's silver wings, a sense of destiny settled over the tower. Mike, Hicks, and Carter stood silent, eyes fixed on the horizon where the object hung, mysterious and untouchable. They didn't know their decision would spark one of the most enigmatic tragedies in U.S. military history. They only knew that somewhere in the sky, Jake Thompson was preparing to meet his fate. A fate written in strange lights, untold secrets, and a call from the boundless unknown. As twilight faded over Kentucky's sky on January 7th, 1948, 4 P-51 Mustangs tore through the air, their silver arcs gleaming against the deep blue. En route from Marietta, Georgia, to Standiford Field, Kentucky, they carried the U.S. Air Force's might and pride. Leading the flight was Captain Jake Thompson, his sun-bleached blonde hair and razor-sharp eyes marking a man revered not just for skill, but for a fearless heart. A living legend, Jake had faced death in Europe's brutal dogfights, forged into a symbol of courage and resolve. In that moment, as the Mustang's propellers roared, a signal from Godman Airfield's control tower crackled through the radio, urgent with an unprecedented mystery. Sergeant Mike Blackwell from the cramped control room posed a simple, weighty question to Jake. Did he have fuel to investigate an unidentified object south of them? Without a second's pause, Jake's steady voice, laced with an unquenchable fire, replied. He requested coordinates, as if the sky's summons was what he'd awaited his whole life. To Jake, this wasn't just a mission. It was a chance to touch what others dared not dream. One P-51 under a younger pilot peeled off to continue to Standiford, leaving Jake with 2 loyal wingmen, Lieutenant Sam Reed, a quiet but steadfast man, and Lieutenant Ethan Cole, whose optimism shone even in peril. The trio banked south at 210 degrees, noses cutting through winter's icy air. The Mustangs roared, climbing, their silver wings glinting in the day's last light. In his tight cockpit, Jake's eyes scoured the horizon, heart pounding, not from fear, but from a strange sense he was nearing something greater than himself. At 12,000 feet, Jake spotted it, a radiant object hovering ahead, higher, like a metallic beacon in the sky. Massive, larger than any plane he'd seen, its surface shimmered with strange light, streaked with pulsing red. Over the radio, Jake's voice mixed awe and excitement, as if he'd grazed a cosmic secret. But thrill soon hardened into fierce resolve. He pushed the throttle, his P-51 surging through thin clouds, straight toward the enigma. Yet the sky, vast as it was, held harsh limits. Past 15,000 feet, the air thinned, and Jake's P-51, unequipped with oxygen, became a potential coffin. In the tower, Mike and others hung on Jake's radioed words, hearts tightening as his tone shifted. At 18,000 feet, he reported the object moving, faster than he'd gauged, as if toying with him. "It's right ahead," Jake whispered, voice faltering, "but it's faster than me." From Sam's cockpit, a frantic plea crackled, begging Jake to descend, warning of oxygen deprivation. But Jake seemed deaf to it, eyes locked on the object, mind consumed by an unrelenting chase. Above 20,000 feet, where air was razor-thin and death stalked each breath, Jake pressed on. His trembling P-51, straining under the pressure, shot forward like a silver arrow, chasing the strange light, luring him into the void. His voice, faint over the radio, was swallowed by the haze of altitude. Then, in a fateful instant, contact severed. Silence gripped the tower, as if the sky had claimed Jake and the secret he pursued. On the ground, the tower's occupants stood frozen, eyes fixed on the horizon where the radiant object vanished, leaving an endless void. Mike clutched the radio receiver, hoping for a signal, a sign Jake was still there. But only cold, cruel silence answered. Hours later, a rescue team found the wreckage of Jake's P-51 near the Kentucky-Tennessee border. Twisted metal scattered across a desolate field. At the tragedy's heart lay Jake Thompson, the war-surviving hero, motionless, his body one with the sky he loved. Jake's death wasn't just the loss of a gifted pilot. It was a haunting, unanswered question. What did he see in his final moments? What drove this sharp, calculated man to risk everything for that light? In the tower, Mike, Colonel John Hicks, and Major Paul Carter stood silent, eyes still south where Jake vanished. They didn't know that hours later this mystery would resurface elsewhere, with stranger shapes, defying all human explanation. For now, they felt only one truth. Jake Thompson was gone, taking the sky's secret with him, leaving a wound that would never heal in those left behind. As night fell over Kentucky, carrying the raw grief of Captain Jake Thompson's death, a new mystery stirred 200 miles northeast at Lockbourne Air Force Base, Ohio. On the night of January 7th, 1948, the sky, cloaked in thick clouds, seemed to guard a secret it refused to share. In the air traffic control room, Alex Pickering, a 6-year veteran pilot, was immersed in routine when a tower alert jolted his pulse. A radiant amber object hovered southwest of the base, like a ghostly flame in the dark. Without hesitation, Alex rushed outside, eyes scanning the sky, and what he saw stopped his blood cold. Under the base's dim lights, the object loomed, Not a mere speck, but a massive circle or oval, rivaling a C-47 transport plane Alex once flew. It hung motionless, as if studying the ground with unknowable intent. Then, as if spurred by an unseen force, it dove, skimming mere meters above the earth, so close Alex felt its chilling, alien presence. His heart faltered, but before he could react, it shot upward, piercing the night at blinding speed, reaching 10,000 feet in an instant. It spun, darted sideways, then hovered again, a spectral dancer mocking the stunned eyes below. Alex raised binoculars, straining to define its form. Through the lenses, a glowing trail stretched 5 times its length, an amber exhaust flickering in the dark. But what chilled him was the absolute silence. No engine roar, no air torn asunder, just a terrifying stillness. In his career, from World War II flights to long shifts at Lockbourne, Alex had never seen such a thing. It wasn't a balloon, plane, or star. It was beyond his imagination, a shape from a realm humanity hadn't touched. Simultaneously, over Ohio's skies, pilot Charles Morgan flew a patrol plane, eyes sweeping the windshield for familiar night markers. Instead, he caught a strange light, flickering between white and amber, hanging southwest. It matched no navigation beacon or reflection from his hundreds of night missions. The object moved, defying aerodynamics and gravity, then vanished, as if swallowed by the night. Charles, a hardened man who'd faced enemy fire unflinchingly, felt a cold shiver. In that moment, he knew he'd glimpsed something not of this world, something that made his trusted rules feel fragile as mist. On the ground, Alex stood rooted, eyes locked on the sky where the object continued its eerie performance. It traced perfect circles, each in under 40 seconds, then abruptly shifted, streaking sideways at speeds Alex estimated over 500 miles per hour. Through binoculars, he sensed it wasn't just moving. It seemed aware, testing the limits of its onlookers. As it dove again, nearly grazing the earth, Alex felt a strange connection, as if it sent a message he couldn't decode. Then, in a final act, it surged upward, merging with the thick clouds and vanishing, leaving Alex with a hollow awe. In the control room, Alex's colleagues, who'd also witnessed it, mirrored his shock and fear in their eyes. No one spoke, but all knew they'd seen something profound, a mystery no science or military logic could unravel. Alex, heart still racing, returned to his desk, but his mind lingered in the sky where the amber object had faded. He knew this story wasn't over. That strange light was just the start of events that would make America question what hid above. Jake Thompson's death hours earlier remained an open wound for those at Godman. But now, at Lockbourne, a new chapter of the mystery unfolded with inexplicable shapes and unanswerable questions. Alex and Charles, men who once believed the sky was their domain, faced a terrifying truth. Some things outstripped human control, lights that not only defied science, but touched a primal fear within. That night, Ohio wasn't just a dot on the map. It was where the line between reality and myth grew thinner than ever. As dense darkness enveloped Ohio, carrying the bone-chilling cold of January 7th, 1948, the sky's mystery refused to release its grip on the soldiers standing watch. Barely an hour after the amber object vanished from Lockbourne's view, 60 miles southwest, a new light flared, as if continuing the eerie tale sparked by Jake Thompson's tragedy. At Clinton County Airfield, a small base amid sprawling fields, Sergeant James Hudson was immersed in a quiet night shift when a frantic comrade summoned him outside. The soldier's trembling voice carried an urgency born of the inexplicable. James, lean with sharp eyes, stepped out of the control tower, unaware he was about to witness a phenomenon that would haunt him forever. Under a cloud-choked sky where no star could pierce, James looked up and saw it. A radiant object suspended southwest like a ghostly lantern in the night. Through binoculars, its form sharpened. An inverted cone with a flat top, elongated body, emitting light that shifted from pristine white to blazing red, pulsing like a living thing's heartbeat. It resembled nothing from James's 5 years in control towers, where he knew every aircraft, from roaring fighters to drifting balloons. This was different. It wasn't just a vehicle, it seemed to carry intent, a purpose James couldn't grasp. The object hovered, motionless, as if studying the earth with cold patience. Then, abruptly, it surged with terrifying speed, slicing the sky like a luminous arrow. James stood frozen, heart pounding, as it left a greenish mist trail 5 times its length, flickering in the dark like a signal from another realm. He grabbed paper and pen, sketching its strange shape, an inverted cone with a flat top bow trailing a sinuous tail like a sci-fi spaceship he'd once mocked. But now, as its light bathed the sky, James wasn't laughing. A primal fear, laced with awe, gripped him as if he stood at the threshold of another world. The object didn't stop there. It launched a performance that left James and his tower colleagues breathless. It moved up and down, not like a plane or balloon, but like an invisible elevator, sliding through space with eerie precision. One moment it hovered at thousands of feet. The next, it plunged, nearly grazing the ground, only to rocket upward again, as if testing its observer's limits. Each motion was so swift the naked eye struggled to follow, and through binoculars, James estimated its speed surpassed 500 miles per hour, a figure no human technology of the era could achieve. In the tower, silence weighed heavy. James's comrades, seasoned soldiers accustomed to skyward oddities, stood mute, their eyes reflecting confusion and a trace of fear. James, a pragmatist skeptical of supernatural tales, felt his convictions waver. He muttered to himself, grasping for a rational explanation. If this was a balloon, as some would later claim, it was unlike any recorded, with maneuverability defying science's limits. But deep down, James knew the explanation was flimsy, unable to mask the truth. He'd witnessed something not of this world. At 7:55 p.m., the object veered southwest at dizzying speed, as if summoned by an unseen force. It vanished into the horizon, its green mist fading in the dark. James stood still, binoculars clenched, his mind adrift in unanswerable questions. What was it? Why here, mere hours after Lockbourne's stunning light? Was it linked to Jake Thompson's death, the pilot who perished chasing a similar mystery in Kentucky? In that moment, James sensed an invisible thread tying 3 places: Godman, Lockbourne, now Clinton County. All reported radiant objects southwest, as if following a covert path, a plan humanity wasn't privy to. He wasn't alone in this feeling. His tower comrades, though silent, bore the same unease in their eyes, as if they'd brushed a truth too vast, too terrifying to embrace. That night, Clinton County Airfield was more than a stop amid Ohio's fields. It was where skyward lights carved a lasting mark, a reminder of mysteries beyond our grasp. James Hudson, once a mocker of UFO and alien tales, now carried a new obsession. He knew that though the world might explain these events as balloons or celestial quirks, the truth lay out there, hidden in lights that never dimmed, and in the memories of those who saw them. As the strange light vanished from Ohio's sky, leaving stunned witnesses and unanswered questions, Jake Thompson's death lingered like a specter in the minds of those left behind. January 7, 1948 became a deep scar in history, not just for the loss of a gifted pilot, but for the mysteries it left, defying humanity's attempts to unravel them. The U.S. Air Force, under public pressure and the sting of loss, launched an investigation, determined to find answers to soothe troubled souls. But what they offered was a half-hearted explanation, a flimsy veil unable to conceal the truth lurking in the shadows. The official report claimed Jake Thompson, in his fateful Kentucky chase, may have pursued a classified skyhook weather balloon launched from Clinton County that morning. These massive, metallic-coated balloons, reflecting sunlight, were said to cause the dazzling glow Jake and Godman witnesses saw. To bolster this, the Air Force suggested Venus, blazing on the horizon that afternoon, might have fueled confusion, creating an illusion of a larger, stranger object. The reported erratic movements? Mere tricks of drifting clouds, they said, an optical phenomenon making the balloon seem to dart faster than it did. Presented with the confidence of scientists and senior officers, this explanation seemed a neat key to lock away the mystery, boxing it into something tidy and comprehensible. But in Ohio, where amber and red lights had seared into the memories of men like Alex Pickering and Charles Morgan, the Air Force's story rang hollow, a desperate bid to cloak the inexplicable. At Lockbourne and Clinton County, witnesses, seasoned pilots, controllers, and guards described an object moving over 500 miles per hour, executing unthinkable maneuvers, hovering, diving near the ground, then soaring thousands of feet in a blink. These precise, purposeful motions bore no resemblance to any balloon or plane they knew. Moreover, that night's sky was thick with clouds, obscuring all celestial bodies, rendering the Venus theory as frail as a whisper in the wind. If it was a balloon, how could it spin, pivot, and vanish at breakneck speed, leaving shimmering amber and green trails in the dark? A larger, more haunting question loomed. Why did all three sites, Godman, Lockbourne, Clinton County, report objects in the southwest as if following an unseen path, a plan humanity wasn't privy to? From Fort Knox's tower, where Jake began his doomed flight, to Ohio's desolate fields where strange lights danced, an enigmatic thread linked the events, a pattern the Air Force seemed to willfully ignore. Their explanation, though delivered with certainty, couldn't erase the sense they were dodging the truth, that these lights held a deeper meaning beyond the reach of military reports and scientific charts. Jake Thompson's death remained an unhealed wound, a mystery not just in what he chased, but why he risked everything. A close friend said Jake would only act so if he believed the object outweighed his life or family. In his final moments, as thin air blurred his consciousness in the freezing cockpit, what did Jake see? A sun-glinting balloon, or something from a distant realm, a shape bearing a warning or cosmic summons? No one knew, and perhaps no one would. But his sacrifice turned those strange lights into a timeless tale, a puzzle that halted America to wonder, are we truly alone in this universe? Ohio's witnesses, from Alex with binoculars to Charles in the night sky, carried an unshakable obsession. They didn't just see an object, they felt its presence, an invisible force challenging every rule they'd learned. The Air Force's logical, tidy explanation couldn't erase memories of perfect spins, amber trails, or the sense they'd stood at another world's threshold. In their hearts, and those who heard this tale, a spark of curiosity burned, a hunger for the truth behind the lights over Kentucky and Ohio. Jake Thompson's story isn't just a dark chapter in U.S. military history. It's a reminder that the universe brims with unexplored mysteries. Was it a balloon, a celestial body, or something from afar? We may never know, but stories like this must be retold so future generations remember the courage of men like Jake and keep questioning what hides above. If this story moved you, hit the subscribe button and share it with friends and family in the US. Let's spread these mysteries, tales of bravery, and unexplained wonders together. Thank you for listening, and stay tuned for the next episode where we'll dive into a 1980s Texas UFO case. See you then.